This video is just going to be a quick and easy understanding guide to George Gerbner's cultivation theory. It's quite simple and straightforward. Before I start, check the link in the description for a new website I've recently made, in which I give a more in-depth explanation as to how the cultivation theory works and how it can be applied to real life. So the cultivation theory is the idea that exposure to repeated patterns of representation over long periods of time can shape and influence the way in which people perceive the world around them. One example could be, let's say, repeated exposure by a media product, for example, a TV show, that repeatedly represents a social group in a negative way. The first time people will ignore it, but over time, that could begin to change. People are going to begin forming their own opinions. Another way of explaining this theory is that the media tends to repeat representations of people or groups of people over and over again, and that the effects of this representation affects the audience more and more as time goes on. Credits to Miss Fisher for explaining it in this way, and she's 100% correct. I mean, look at the evidence for this. It's quite abundant. I mean, just look at deodorant commercials. The cover actors on those ads are usually males or females with quote-unquote desirable bodies, as they are the shining examples of how people should look like. Allow me to explain another example. Let's say the media portrays a group of people as violent, just once. Most people would probably ignore that. However, if this notion is repeated constantly again and again, over time people's opinion revolving that specific group will change from one of respect to one of fear. George Gerbner himself believes that these repeated representations cultivate and ingrain views into the minds of the audience, changing our perception of things and thus holding the potential to change our behavior. And also, the cultivation theory creates these new ideas of dominant ideologies towards social groups. For example, as I previously said, if the media repeatedly represent a group as being violent and a danger to society, then of course people will have a negative feeling towards that social group, and that's exactly what I mean by ideology, because it's no longer just a hunch or a grudge, it's now a viewpoint or a perspective of things. And that's pretty much it for my explanation of George Gerbner's theory. Again, be sure to check the link in the description if you want to check out my website on the cultivation theory, but keep in mind that it's still in development, so don't expect it to be 100% completed. Thanks, take care.